My wife, Lucy, was not considered conventionally attractive. Our marriage was arranged, and to be honest, I didn't have any affection for her. Then, one day, I was kidnapped. The kidnappers demanded I kill Lucy as a condition for my release. In a moment that stunned me, Lucy grabbed the knife and stabbed herself through the heart. It was then, seeing her final act of love, that I truly understood the depth of her feelings for me. The next thing I knew, I was back in the year we had first gotten married. A wave of emotion washed over me. I rushed to Lucy, choked up, and whispered, "Honey, I missed you so much. Please hold me." Her face tensed, her eyes growing wary. "What game are you playing this time?" she asked, her voice flat. My last memory from the previous life was of Lucy, bloodied but still smiling at me, saying, "Paul, I love you. Live a good life." It turned out the kidnappers had been after Lucy all along. They had used me, holding a gun to my head, forcing me to be the one to end her life. Lucy hadn't hesitated. She had taken the knife and plunged it into her own heart, her eyes filled with a resolute determination. That face, the one I had always found plain, was radiant in the fading sunlight. But in the end, I had died too, never seeing who was truly behind it all as darkness consumed me. Then, I opened my eyes. A warm breeze brushed my face. I saw my surroundings reflected in a mirror, and not far away was my home. My phone buzzed, interrupting my bewildered thoughts. It was Linda, a childhood friend who had become a famous pianist. "Paul, you didn't go with Lucy to the charity banquet, did you? Want to join me instead?" The shock of my rebirth jolted me. I quickly checked the calendar, my heart pounding in my chest. I was back to the year Lucy and I had just gotten married. Today, in my previous life, had been our first formal event as a couple. She had even had a suit tailor-made for me, and it had fit perfectly. But before we were to leave, my mother had called. She had mentioned that Lucy had handed over a coveted project to her, urging me to treat Lucy better. An inexplicable fury had risen within me. The company was struggling financially, but I had always resented the fact that we had to marry into Lucy's family because of it. Lucy's proposal of marriage had been tempting, and my parents had agreed almost instantly. Deep down, I had always felt like she was taking advantage of us. That phone call had felt like she was trying to trap me further with money. We had argued, Lucy. "I will never like a scheming, ugly person like you," I had spat in anger. And then, fueled by that rage, I had accepted Linda's invitation, attending the event with her and leaving Lucy humiliated. She had become the laughingstock of our social circle, and rumors of our marital troubles had quickly spread online. Ding! Another Instagram message from Linda popped up. "Paul, why aren't you answering? Want me to pick you up?" I quickly declined, got dressed, and left. This time, I wouldn't let Lucy get hurt. At the banquet, I noticed Lucy immediately. She carried herself with a graceful air, and her figure was striking. Unfortunately, a birthmark marred the left side of her face. Suddenly, her last confession from the previous life flashed through my mind, and my eyes stung with regret. A harsh voice snapped me back to the present. "Lucy, let's be honest. Paul has always been handsome, with women chasing him his whole life, and he's not interested in many. How does that make you feel? People are visual beings, especially in this looks-driven world. Lucy can only endure this. A marriage based on money. Lucy should come to terms with it." Lucy's head lowered slightly, and she looked visibly uneasy. I grabbed a wine glass and approached her. Seeing her surprise, I felt a lump in my throat. "Honey, I missed you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Hold me." Lucy stared at me in disbelief. The others who had been mocking her looked distinctly uncomfortable. They hadn't expected me to show up, let alone say such affectionate things to Lucy. Everyone knew I disliked her. My disdain for the marriage was no secret. That was why they had dared to tease her so openly. Lucy, especially, knew. And there she stood, her face tense, her eyes dim. After a moment she asked coldly, "What game are you playing this time?" My eyes watered again, remembering my past indifference, the way I had treated her poorly and often embarrassed her. I felt a pang of guilt. The few times I had been kind to her in the previous life were only to manipulate her into agreeing to a divorce. She probably recalled those moments now, especially earlier when I had yelled at her in front of the maid. Damn it. Why didn't I rebirth to an earlier time? As I wrestled with these thoughts, a mocking voice cut through the crowd. Paul doesn't care about money over people. Hated Lucy. What changed? Not a problem with her looks now. Laughter erupted around us. It was Wendy, Lucy's rival. She couldn't compete with Lucy in business, so she attacked her elsewhere. In the last life, when I had arrived with Linda, Wendy had mocked Lucy mercilessly. Annoyed, I grabbed the wine glass from Lucy and splashed its contents onto Wendy's face. "Paul, are you insane?" Wendy wiped her face angrily as a waiter rushed over with a towel, which she discarded after a quick swipe. Glaring at me, she hissed, "Your mouth was filthy, so I cleaned it for you." Wendy raised her hand to strike me. "You little—" Before she could finish, Lucy caught her hand. "Touch him, and you'll regret it," Lucy said, her voice low and dangerous. My heart fluttered, a familiar sensation. The same as the last life. Lucy always lost control when it involved me. Wendy struggled, but Lucy's grip was firm, Wendy still spewing hateful words. "Lucy, you're ugly! Paul hates you! What's wrong with that?" "Smack!" I slapped Wendy, silencing her. Everyone was stunned. Silence fell before Wendy, recovering from the shock, yelled, "Paul, how dare you hit me!" She tried to retaliate, but Lucy's grip held her fast. "Say something bad about my wife, and I'll hit you again," I warned. Lucy looked stunned, her eyes brightening briefly before dimming again. "Let go of me!" Wendy yelled at Lucy. "For this man, Lucy! You'll end up dead by his hand sooner or later." Lucy released her grip, and Wendy turned to leave. "Stop!" I commanded sternly. "Apologize to my wife." Emotions flickered across Lucy's face once more. Wendy, clearly irritated, shot Lucy a contemptuous glance, then glared at me. "Paul, don't push it. When you do something wrong, you apologize. Even elementary kids know that. Don't you?" Possibly out of fear of Lucy, Wendy begrudgingly muttered, "Sorry." Then, her eyes full of resentment, she left the banquet hall. Watching her retreating back, I thought about her earlier words. "You'll end up dead by his hands one day." Could it be that she had orchestrated the kidnapping in the previous life? Suddenly, the lights dimmed, and the host took the stage to announce that the auction was about to begin. The crowd dispersed. Lucy glanced at me, her face calm but distant. "Paul, enough with the drama." "Okay, I wasn't making a scene," I replied quickly, pulling her into an embrace. "You're my wife. It's only right I protect you. Didn't you just stand up for me too?" Lucy froze, her face expressionless. A spotlight suddenly illuminated us, drawing everyone's gaze. Lucy quickly turned away, leading me to our seats. Once settled, she tried to pull her hand away, but I interlaced my fingers with hers, holding on playfully as the auction proceeded smoothly. Lucy didn't look my way again. I was feeling a bit down, trying to figure out how to appease this stubborn woman. Then, the host announced the next item up for auction, a limited edition earring. As the staff unveiled it, the dazzling diamond caught everyone's attention, the lighting making it stand out beautifully. I glanced at Lucy, still expressionless. I was determined to get that earring. It might be the key to breaking the ice between us. Luckily, not many seemed willing to go all out for this seemingly impractical trinket. On my third bid, I offered $1 million. Caught up in my own joy, I didn't notice Lucy's darkened expression. When the party ended, I wrapped my arm around hers, eager to present her with the earring. She remained silent the whole way. When the staff handed me the box and asked for payment, I nudged the unresponsive Lucy. "Wifey, time to pay up." Lucy frowned slightly, a hint of helplessness in her eyes, but she silently swiped her card in the end. Walking to the parking lot, she didn't wait for me. I had to jog a bit to catch up. The new shoes I was wearing were giving me blisters, and by the time I got in the car, my heels were scratched up. Annoyed, I snapped, "Why are you walking so fast?" Lucy's gaze was hard to read, her voice strained. "Paul, you spent $1 million on that earring. What do you want me to do, wear it shamelessly and parade around?" I bit my lip. "Lucy, you know it's an earring. Who else am I going to buy it for?" She turned away, looking out the window. "Give it to whatever woman you want. Don't bother telling me." I threw the gift box onto her lap. "It's for you, you silly woman." The air grew thick with tension. Lucy stiffened. For a moment she looked lost, her voice tentative. "You bought this for me?" I turned my head, staring out the window, my voice gruff. "Not anymore. I'll give it to the driver." The car suddenly swerved, and the partition rose up, enclosing Lucy and me in a dimmer space. The streetlights and trees outside cast alternating shadows inside the car, softening Lucy's expression. "I'm sorry, Paul," her voice wavered. "You did nothing wrong. It's my fault. I shouldn't have come tonight." Thinking back on my life since reincarnation, I realized I had been chasing after her, but she had always remained cold and distant. The pain in my feet started spreading to my heart. Lucy hesitated, almost reaching out to touch me. Her voice was suppressed. "Sorry, Paul. I never imagined you'd give me anything." Her words broke through my last line of defense. Scenes from both my past and present life flashed through my mind like a slideshow. I had been too cruel for her to even believe she could receive a simple gift from me. My anger had been misplaced. I suddenly turned and hugged her tightly. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way." After a while, she patted my back, comfortingly. "It's okay." I let go, watching her closely. We had never been this close before. For the first time, I noticed that when shadows hid the birthmark on her face, the rest of her features were strikingly beautiful. Lucy felt uncomfortable under my gaze and looked away, trying to push me off, but I clung to her like a sticky bandage, and other ideas began to form in my mind. I caught the edge of her clothing, my eyes full of mischief, leaning closer to her lips. "Don't, Paul," Lucy said, holding herself back, turning her head away. "I'm not as self-controlled as you think." I didn't stop, but just as I was about to close the distance, she tilted her head, and my lips only brushed the corner of her mouth. "Lucy, do you not like me anymore?" Her face froze, her eyes briefly puzzled. Gathering what seemed to be a lot of courage, she leaned over to say, "Paul, do you really see who I am?" "Lucy, my wife!" I seized the moment, cupping her face and kissing her passionately. She was caught off guard by the sudden kiss. I noticed her initial discomfort and was about to pull back when she gripped my arm. "Paul, if you mess with me, you can't escape." At first, I didn't understand what Lucy meant. It wasn't until things moved faster than I had expected that it hit me. In the past, Lucy and I were either fighting or sulking. We never had intimate interactions. I hadn't expected someone so poised and reserved to be so easily affected. As her hand moved down my clothes, I hurriedly stopped her, covering her mouth with a finger. "Wait, Lucy, let's calm down." I glanced towards the front seat, hinting that we weren't alone, but she took it the wrong way. She moved aside, all the previous warmth gone. "What, you can't keep up the act anymore?" I stared back at her in shock. Act? Did she still think I was faking all this? I'm not. Lucy was sorting through her messy clothes, speaking in a calm and steady tone. Paul, you said yourself you'd never like someone like me, so-called ugly. Isn't that right? My heart felt like it was being squeezed tight by an invisible hand. Yes, I said it. Lucy closed her eyes briefly. Then tell me, what do you want by doing all this? Whatever it is, I'll do my best to satisfy you. Just don't ask for a divorce. Lucy, I'm not getting a divorce. I like you, really like you. Trying to prove my sincerity, I moved closer to Lucy, but ended up banging my heel in the process, wincing at the pain. Lucy noticed right away. She gently put a Band-Aid on it, and once it was on, I quickly pulled my foot back. Without a change in her expression, Lucy cleaned up the trash and sat back down. A wave of bitterness washed over me, and I curled up in the corner. Lucy, let's try to make this work, I urged. Lucy looked shocked, her eyes hard to read in the shifting shadows. She parted her lips, just about to speak, when suddenly the car jerked to a stop. We both lurched forward at once. Quickly, she reached out to steady me and scolded the driver. Sorry, Miss Lucy, he stammered. Someone suddenly jumped out in front and I had to brake. Lucy glanced around coolly and said nothing, stepping out of the car. It wasn't until then that I noticed we were almost at the garage. I followed suit to open her car door. The moment my hand touched the handle, the door opened automatically. There was Linda's perfectly beautiful face. Linda, she smiled warmly, extending her hand. Your Highness, please step out. I stiffened, avoiding her touch. What are you doing here? Stepping out, I noticed Lucy on the other side of the car, staring at me coldly. My heart sank. Was she upset from seeing Linda after the party? In the past, Lucy had asked me if I liked Linda. Back then, hoping for a divorce, I hadn't explained and had let her misunderstand. This time I ignored the wedge Linda was trying to drive between Lucy and me. Seeing Lucy's eyes grow colder, I quickly sidestepped Linda to explain, but Linda grabbed my wrist. Then don't you have something for me, huh? What thing? Linda glanced at Lucy, smiling gently. The earrings. You said you'd give them to me. Just then, a gift box was thrown in front of us. Looking up, Lucy was staring at me with a sarcastic smile, her birthmark appearing darker, her face flushed with anger. No, that's not it, I desperately denied. Who said I bought those earrings for you? Enough, Paul, Linda said knowingly. You should have told me if you wanted to help buy back the earrings. They're not worth $1 million. I turned pale. Those earrings were yours? I had just wanted to buy Lucy a gift, never realizing part of the auction had been for celebrities' used items, which were anonymous until afterward. Lucy had stormed off in a huff, and I had forgotten to verify the details. From Lucy's furious eyes, I guessed she thought the whole night had been a trick. She looked away, hurrying off. I pulped down, picking up the gift box. Linda, I swear I didn't know they were yours. I didn't buy them for you. It's late. I'm heading home. Suddenly, Linda's expression darkened. Paul, what's up? You always hated being around Lucy and wanted to get away? Why the rush now? Did she threaten your company? Guilt washed over me. These were the ideas I had drilled into Linda before. I shook my head hard. Linda, Lucy's been good to me, and I was wrong before. I want to make things work with her now. Linda looked stunned. Paul, are you serious about being with that ugly woman? Linda! My sharp tone startled her, freezing her expression. Don't talk about her like that, or we're not even friends anymore. Having said that, I ignored Linda and rushed back home. The living room lights were on, but there was no sign of Lucy. I slowly made my way upstairs to the study. Through a gap in the door, I saw Lucy sipping wine, standing alone by the window. I suddenly recalled that last time I had stayed out all night and hadn't come home. The next day I had seen the cleaning lady gather up a whole bunch of empty bottles from the study. "Lucy?" I called out softly. She paused, holding the glass, but didn't turn around. Coming in front of her, I handed over the gift box. "Lucy, it's not what you think. I swear I didn't know they were Linda's. I just wanted to give you a gift to make you happy." The strong smell of alcohol made me wrinkle my nose. "Happy, Paul? You used my money to buy her second-hand stuff and expect me to be happy?" Lucy snatched the gift box and tossed it into the trash. "That was $1,000,000. Instinctively, I reached to grab it. "Paul, you're going through all this trouble tonight. What do you really want? How much more do you want to humiliate me?" Of course, Lucy misunderstood me terribly. Thinking back to what had happened in the car earlier, I pulled Lucy into my arms. "I don't, Lucy. I genuinely want to be good to you. To be with you." Her body stiffened, unresponsive for a long moment. Despite my embarrassment, I started untying her clothes one by one, placing my hand on her waist. "Honey." Lucy flinched as if she'd been shocked, lowering her eyes silently. "Paul, do you know what you're doing?" "Of course I know that I like you. I don't care what you look like. I like you." Lucy looked bewildered, and while she was still in a daze, I kissed her. I watched as a mix of surprise, joy, and excitement flashed across her eyes before she closed them, pulling me in tighter as she deepened the kiss. After an intensely satisfying moment of release, Lucy was resting her head on my shoulder as I carried her back to the bedroom. I stroked her hair and kissed her cheek. There was still a trace of confusion in her eyes. "Paul, can I ask you something?" she asked. I leaned in and gave her chin a playful flick. "Want to know why I've suddenly changed?" Lucy silently confirmed. I wrapped my arms around her waist. "All right, let me ask you this. If I were kidnapped right now, and the kidnapper wanted both your money and your life, what would you do?" "Give it to them," Lucy said nonchalantly. "If you do that, you die. You're so young and successful, don't you think it's a waste?" Lucy kissed me tenderly. "You're worth everything to me." "That's exactly why I've changed, Lucy. You died for me," I admitted, laying bare the ending of our past life together. Her eyes slowly dimmed. "So, Paul, you don't really like me. You're just trying to repay a debt, aren't you?" When I first came back to life, I wondered the same thing. But when I saw Lucy was safe and sound, my heart raced like a drum. The spark and thrill were undeniable. She saved me, and I owed her, but I had also really fallen for her. I suddenly toppled Lucy over and climbed on top of her. "Lucy, listen clearly. I like you for no reason at all. I won't leave you in this lifetime." I sealed it with a passionate kiss, and Lucy immediately responded in kind. I held her tangled in our endless embrace. After we settled back down, she lay against my neck, her voice laced with melancholy. "Paul, I'll believe you this time, but if you are lying, please just keep the lie going." Feeling overwhelming love, I held her tightly. "I'm not lying. I'll never lie to you again." The next morning, the sunlight trickling through the curtains woke me up. I rolled over instinctively, reaching for her, but all I found was a cool, empty space beside me. Half opening an eye, I glanced around. No sign of Lucy anywhere on the bed. I wearily sat up, aching all over. Was last night all for nothing? Just as I was wondering how to win her back, the bathroom door opened. Lucy stepped out, drying her hair. She was only wrapped in a simple towel, her skin emitting a delicate fragrance in the sunlight. I couldn't help but swallow hard, trying to play bashful as I peeked through my fingers. "You didn't leave." Lucy walked over, prying my fingers apart. You don't want to see me? I glanced at her skin. Of course not. I lowered my gaze, meeting her soft eyes. Something about her seemed different today. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. The screen flashed the name Linda in bold letters. Oh no, I hadn't changed it yet. I looked back at Lucy, her brow furrowed with a hint of jealousy. Oh, don't look at me like that. It's not like I asked her to call. But the next second proved otherwise. Linda, what's up? Linda's voice was tinged with slight disappointment. Paul, did you forget? You promised to accompany me to the concert tour in Beijing. We agreed to shop for some necessities today. I smacked my forehead. Crap! I did promise that before things got good with Lucy. No way I could go now. Sorry, Linda. Something came up. I can't make it. Heavy breathing came through the line. Hello? You there? Yep. Linda hesitated. Paul, are you still upset about last night? You and Lucy. We're good, I said, fiddling with the shirt Lucy was changing into. Suddenly, Lucy wrapped her arms around my waist, getting close enough for me to feel her breath. Bye, Linda. Talk later. I hung up and nudged Lucy off. Come on, even a farm donkey couldn't keep up. Weren't you asking for it? She shot back, overwhelming me with affection, scolding her with words, but inside I felt sweet as honey. In this life, things were finally on track, except for the unresolved kidnapping incident. Just recalling the chilling knife piercing Lucy's heart gave me unbearable pain. I couldn't let tragedy repeat. I wouldn't lose Lucy. So I had become her shadow, like a personal bodyguard, watching for anything suspicious around her. We were practically inseparable, almost sharing bathroom visits. One day I stood outside the women's restroom waiting for her, while several colleagues passed by, laughing and giving me looks. Awkwardly walking back to the office, I nudged Lucy to walk in front, covering my face with my hand. Hurry up. It's embarrassing. She seemed to enjoy it. They're just envious. What's embarrassing about that? Just then, I overheard some gossip. Lucy and her guy are so in love, can't be apart for a second. Who knew cold, distant Lucy would turn out to be such a romantic? Is her guy gonna keep working here? Hope so. She's been so much nicer lately. Lucy's light-hearted expression shifted to seriousness. Who said that just now? Step up. Her voice was chilled with what seemed like anger. Who dare admit it? I suddenly hooked her fingers behind her back, signaling her to let it slide, but she squeezed my hand, then let go, asking again. A supervisor stepped in diplomatically. I apologize, Lucy. Don't be upset. I'll get to the bottom of this and address it sternly. Addressing sternly? Lucy raised her eyebrow and asked, Oh, are they getting fired? She grinned and said, No way! I was actually thinking of giving them a raise, but since no one confessed, we saved some cash. Let's have afternoon tea on me instead. Lucy, I'm the one who said you and your husband have a good relationship. I'm the one who said your love struck Lucy. Lucy, can we get a raise? Lucy, may you and your husband be in love forever. Things were calm for a while. I thought maybe my second chance had changed many choices, even altered the kidnapping. But then Lucy's project in Heischer hit a snag, and she had to handle it. I was really worried. In the past, I was kidnapped when Lucy went on a work trip to Heischer. She had rushed back to save me, not having time to investigate, just grabbed some money and came alone, which led to her tragic death. Watching her pack her bags, I dashed over and hugged her tightly, my voice hoarse. Are you sure you have to go? Can't someone else handle it? Lucy kissed me and gently smoothed my hair, like soothing a kitten. Sweetie, I'll only be gone for 3 days. I'll be back soon. I tightened my grip, pouting. Not even a day unless I come too. I rarely acted like this. Lucy took my hand, remembering something. You're worried about the kidnapping. I nodded vigorously. Yes. In the past, it happened right after you went to Haysher. Even though the timing and project are different now, I can't risk it. Finally getting to be with you again, I don't want to lose that. She held me tighter. It won't happen. Trust me. In the end, I went with Lucy to Haysher. The first 2 days went smoothly, and work got handled without a hitch. At night, I sat on the bed after my shower, scrolling through my phone. Suddenly, I got a message on Instagram from Linda. We hadn't talked since I turned down her tour last time. Linda. Paul, are you in Haysher? Me. How'd you know, Linda? Linda, I heard Lucy is there, so I thought I'd... Me? Is something up? Linda sent a voice message. Paul, I have a performance in Haysher tomorrow night. It's the last one. I'm going overseas for a while after. Won't be back for quite some time. Think you can come see me? Just then, Lucy came out of the bathroom and overheard. Feeling guilty, I quickly locked my phone, smiling as I went to meet her. Linda didn't expect her to be so straightforward. Yeah, she's performing here and invited us to watch. Lucy gave a wry smile. Invited you, right? I leaned my head against hers. What's the difference? Aren't we like a package deal now? All right. Lucy poked my head with her finger. She's your friend. If you want to go, just go. I stared at her, silent. What she unconsciously touched her face. Wait, I said, stopping her hand, gently holding her face. Honey, I noticed you've become more beautiful lately. She let out a soft laugh. Then you don't need to fib just to see a performance. I was serious. I had noticed the change and finally figured it out today. I brought her to the mirror, pointing at her birthmark. Hasn't it faded a lot? Lucy studied it. It seems a bit... I remembered that in the past, Lucy hadn't had this change, even when she died. The birthmark sat deep on her left cheek. So could this be because of me? Excited, I hugged her tight. If my guess is right, I love her even more. Lucy came with me to see Linda's performance. We sat in the prime area she had reserved for us, holding the huge bouquet of zinnias I had gotten for Linda. Lucy had a strange expression. This is the first time I've given flowers to a rival. I took her hand. I've told you countless times, Linda and I are just friends. Lucy quipped, You might see her as a friend, but she might not. I playfully pinched her. Someone's got a love-struck jealous streak. No hope for you, huh? I'm incurable, and you're not gonna help, I joked, pretending to be pitiful. When did you get sick? She said earnestly. Didn't you say I was beyond help? I was speechless right then. Music began, and the crowd quieted. Linda elegantly walked on stage. She'd said back in middle school she wanted to be a pianist. Congrats to her, she made it happen. She's really good too. Appearance-wise, even with the birthmark, she was a shade less breathtaking than Lucy. But love is like that. It doesn't always make much sense. What's up? I squeezed her hand. Lucy, I love you. She paused. Then her eyes filled with warmth. Paul, I love you too. The performance ended, and we went backstage to find Linda. They were having a meeting, so we waited outside. I used the restroom and left Lucy waiting. When I got back, a crowd had gathered at the meeting room entrance. What a shame. The pianist's hand got injured. She's done for life. Someone pushed her when the chandelier fell, I heard. Wasn't there something online about the person she likes marrying someone else? Could it be a crime of passion? Listening to the baseless gossip, my mind was a jumbled mess. I wove through the people. Zinnias were scattered all over the floor. Not far away, the massive chandelier pinned Linda's arm down, her face twisted in pain. Lucy stood across from her, fists clenched, looking indifferent. What happened? I grabbed Lucy's hand in worry. She began to speak, but Linda's groan cut in. "Paul, it hurts. Paul, my hand, is it ruined?" Despair filled her eyes. I didn't know what to say, but comforted her. "It won't be. Medicine's advanced. They'll fix it." Just then, medics hurried over, taking Linda away. On the way back to the hotel, Lucy was quiet, deep in thought. Once inside, I softly asked, "Can you tell me what happened?" Lucy stared at me. "Paul, do you trust me?" "Of course," I replied without hesitation. She sighed deeply and said, "You had just left, and the door swung open. I went in wanting to give the flowers to Linda for you, but she wouldn't take them. She asked why I was there, not so friendly. I didn't want to argue, so I forced the flowers into her hands. While we were tussling, the chandelier fell down. I tried to pull her towards me, but she pulled back and got hit." Lucy hesitated, looking at me. But what?" I asked. Lips pursed, she said. Before she pulled back, she looked up. I was shocked. "Are you saying Linda did it on purpose?" "I can't be sure, but there's that suspicion." "But why would she do that? She's a pianist. Her hands are everything to her. She even talked to me about insuring them. Why would she ruin them on purpose?" "Maybe I'm overthinking things," Lucy said, brushing my hair gently. "Shower and rest." Before I could sleep, there was a knock on the door. It was the police. Someone reported seeing Lucy and Linda arguing. The chandelier chain had been tampered with, so they needed Lucy for questioning. I was restless in the hotel. Does this mean they're suspecting Lucy of hurting Linda on purpose? After thinking for a while, I took a cab to the hospital. Outside the operating room, Linda's colleague Mike was waiting, looking tense. In a past life, he was always good to Linda. Anyone could tell he liked her, except she acted clueless. Mike glanced my way, eyes glaring. He stormed over. "What are you doing here? Haven't you done enough?" "Passing doctors and nurses separated us," he cried, calling me a murderer. "I don't get what you're saying. I didn't hurt Linda." "But your wife did," Mike said, wiping his tears angrily. "She was jealous of you and Linda, using such vile ways to ruin Linda's future. How can she play without hands?" "No way." I immediately refuted Mike's claim. Linda said clearly Lucy pushed her. Why would she lie? As we argued, the surgery light turned off. The surgeon came out, sighing. "The patient has nerve damage. Even with surgery, full recovery is uncertain." "What does that mean? Can she still play?" Mike asked desperately. "She might, but at what level is hard to tell." Linda was wheeled out shortly after, looking frail against her hospital gown. Mike kicked me out of the room. Confusion swirled in my mind, so I headed back to the hotel. I bumped into Lucy in the lobby, looking drained. I rushed to hug her tightly. "Do they suspect it was you?" "You know already." She didn't seem surprised. "Then you also know who told the police, right? Linda?" Lucy rubbed her temples. "Mike exaggerated our relations to the police and insisted I pushed her, causing the fall. Thanks to that, we're stuck for now." I comforted her. "It'll only take some time. Besides, you didn't do it." Lucy playfully tilted my chin. "You trust me that much?" "Of course." I leaned over to kiss her. Going to the concert was a last-minute decision. How could you have planned anything bad? And the motive doesn't add up. Motive? The thought clicked. Find out about Linda's financial status and if she actually insured her hands. You think she planned to commit insurance fraud? It's a possibility, though I'd rather it not be. The issue hit the internet, with rumors about me, Lucy, and Linda everywhere. Speculation was rampant. Lucy's husband is quite cozy with the pianist, seeing them together often. With Lucy looking like that, no wonder her husband's interested elsewhere, and she'd kill for this. Really? Money doesn't mean you can get away with everything. The guilty must face severe punishment to stop this. The more I read, the angrier I got. Just as I was about to reply to a comment, Lucy took my phone away. No need to argue online. Once the truth is out, they'll quiet down. Seeing her weary expression, I rested my forehead against hers. No matter what happens, I'll be with you. The phone woke me up early. I was still groggy. It was Linda calling. "Paul, where are you? Why haven't you visited me?" Hearing her voice woke me instantly. "Is Mike not there? I woke up alone. Can you come?" Glancing at Lucy beside me, I answered, "Wait for me." Lucy rolled over lazily, and I snuggled closer. Jealous? No. I turned her towards me, holding her face. "I need to ask some things in person. It's nothing else." Running her fingers along my neck, she gave a tender smile. "I understand. I'll drive you." In the hospital room, Linda perked up at my arrival. "Paul, sit here." She patted the bed. I took a seat in a chair instead. "Linda, I've considered you a good friend since middle school." Her face tensed. "I feel the same." "Then why did you lie? Why did you let someone tell the cops it was Lucy who hurt you?" Linda had a flash of panic in her eyes, then chuckled lightly. "Paul, she's more important to you than me now. You believe whatever she says? You believe anything I say, right? I only believe in facts. She was with me all day. There's no way she could have messed with the chandelier." Linda scoffed. "She could have paid someone else to do it. She pushed me under the chandelier. She's always had it out for me, jealous of how close you and I are." "She wasn't," I said seriously. "She knows we're just friends. She and I are really happy. She doesn't need to hurt you to strengthen our relationship." "Happy?" Linda looked down, chuckled bitterly, and murmured, "You clearly hate her and are dying to divorce her. How could you love her?" No point in saying more. I stood up. "Linda, you know it's what Lucy didn't do, and you won't succeed in framing her. The truth will come out eventually." Just as I reached the door, Linda called after me. "Paul, are we still friends?" I sighed and shook my head. "Take care of yourself." I shut the door and left. Only Linda's crazy laughter echoed in the wind. My guess was right. Lucy's people found out. Linda insured herself for a huge amount. If she had an accident or got hurt, the insurance would pay her a lot of money. Also, someone snapped photos of her going in and out of an underground casino. She tried to disguise herself, but with a little digging, it was clear it was her. Before Lucy could take all this to the cops, they called her first. Someone turned themselves in, saying they did it all, and Lucy had nothing to do with it. Was it Mike? Lucy looked shocked. "How did you know?" I smiled bitterly. "Probably the only one who's blindly in love with Linda enough to take the fall." "You mean he didn't do it?" I shrugged. "I don't know, I just saw him at the hospital that day. Even if he hates Linda for love, she's unlikely his target." "Then who might it be?" I covered Lucy's curious eyes. "Doesn't matter, let it be. Pack up, I want to go home." After going back, life returned to normal, but the stone in my heart never settled. Lately, Lucy's been pulling all-nighters for work. I've been trying hard to persuade her to balance work and rest. I often oversleep in the morning. Today, when I woke up, I was the only one home again. Lucy left a message on my phone. "Honey, if you're too tired, don't come to the office. Just rest at home." I realized she probably hurried through lunch when I'm not around. I quickly got ready. As I was heading out, I got a call from Linda. I hesitated but picked up. "Paul, are you still mad at me?" "What's up?" My voice took on a chill. Linda sneered. "Can't I call you if there's nothing going on?" "I'm busy. If it's nothing, I'll hang up." "Paul, you chose Lucy. Don't blame me." Her icy words cut me off, and she hung up. I couldn't shake my unease, so I reached out to Lucy. Be careful of Linda. I have a feeling she might try to hurt you. Kay, where are you? I'll send someone to get you. I just left the house in the car. Someone grabbed me from behind, covering my mouth and nose. I blacked out. When I came to, my hands and feet were tied, my mouth stuffed with a cloth. I surveyed my surroundings. My heart felt like it dropped into an ice pit. The kidnapping had happened. A voice bellowed, "I have your husband. If you want him alive, deliver the ransom according to our instructions. Address to follow. Call the cops, and you can collect his body." Even the threats were word for word the same. "No, Lucy can't come. They don't want money. They want her dead." Tears streamed down as I desperately thought of how to stop her. "Paul, are you crying for Lucy?" I turned towards the voice, and Linda approached, fiddling with a knife. Its cold gleam was chilling. "Yeah, she's about to die." She crouched down and removed the cloth from my mouth. "Why?" I asked, at least before she accused Lucy. "I really saw her as a friend." "Because of you, Paul." She dug her fingers into my jaw. "If you hadn't fallen for Lucy, ignored me, would I have gotten addicted to gambling? Do you know what it's like to have loan sharks after you, to feel trapped with nowhere to turn?" I looked at her as if she was a stranger. "So, you framed Lucy? Used Mike's love to cover everything up?" Linda admitted everything she did, all of it, and this kidnapping plot. "Paul, someone wants Lucy dead. I just came up with a more fun way to do it. Aren't you so in love with Lucy? If only one of you can survive, who do you choose?" I froze. Turns out in my last life, it was her too. I spat at her. "You're a psycho, a creep. This time you won't hurt Lucy. I won't let you win." "Sure." Linda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'll be watching." Her words had just left her mouth when the door slammed open. Lucy walked in, heavy with determination. "Let Paul go," the kidnapper asked. Lucy pointed to the suitcase. "Let him go first." "Check the money first." The kidnapper pressed the gun to my head. Lucy caved. She slowly crouched down and opened the suitcase. As soon as she turned the case around, police officers burst in from nowhere, taking down the kidnappers and Linda. Ignoring everything else, Lucy rushed to my side, helping me up and untying me frantically. She checked me over, then wrapped me in a tight hug. "It's okay, it's all over now." I nodded happily. "Yeah, it's over." Linda and her crew didn't stand a chance. After getting caught right there to get lighter sentences, they ratted out the mastermind, Wendy herself. They'll all face legal consequences for sure. Later, I heard from Lucy. Ever since I talked about what happened in our past life, she installed a tracker on my phone. So when the kidnappers called, Lucy and the cops were already almost there. She wasn't passive like in the past life. In this life, she wants to grow old with me just like I do with her. Lucy's fading birthmark became a hot topic online. People were comparing her old photos to the new ones. Stone Corp's CEO suspected of getting cosmetic surgery. Lou, the beauty overshadowed by a birthmark. The top searches were all about her face. I rushed to the study with my phone to show Lucy. It was blowing up online. Lucy glanced at it, looking indifferent. "Let them talk. I didn't get any surgery. I'm naturally beautiful." I laughed out loud. "Vain!" Standing on my toes, I reached up to grab a familiar box from the top shelf. "Huh? Didn't you throw these earrings out?" Lucy moved from in front of her computer, her deep eyes sparkling. "No matter what, it's the first gift you ever gave me. I couldn't actually throw it away." I gently rubbed Lucy's reddened eyes. "Poor thing. My heart aches. I was so bad to you before. Trust me, I'll give you something even more precious." I hooked my finger under Lucy's chin and kissed her passionately. When we broke apart, she gave me a teasing smile. Paul, that more precious gift isn't just you, is it? I turned my face away. What are you thinking? Not that it'd be a bad thing. As long as I have you, that's enough. We kissed again, caught up in each other's tender spell, unable to pull away.